This was published in the Proletarian Literature of the United States by Max Eastman, a communist, collecting communist poetry in the middle of the Depression. Just thought I'd add that in there. All right. So Kamara's going to be first. Interior. A middle-class fortress in which to hide. Draw down the curtain as if saying no, while noon's ablaze outside. And outside people work and sweat, and the day clings by and the hard day ends. And after you doze, brush out your hair and walk like a marmoset to and fro, and look in the mirror at middle age and sit and regard yourself, stare, and hate your life and your tiresome friends and last night's bridge where you went in debt, while all around you gathers the rage of cheated people. Will we hear your fret in the rising noise of the streets? Oh, no. Okay, Kamar, take us anywhere. We've never talked about this, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else also heard that no really loud in this poem after reading Erica Hunt's. But I would love to talk about the first two lines a little, and especially that no at the end of the second line, capital no. And if we sort of take Lainey's question about what no is into this question or this poem, no is a wall. From, I think, a sort of classist elite wall that is protecting a kind of pleasure, ease, racialized ease from inequity outside, it feels. So,
Great start. So the no becomes the wall of the fortress. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Sophia and then Allie.
Jumping off that point of like this barrier of exterior versus interior, I feel like there's a stark contrast between, like, there's this kind of anonymous exterior and then this interior I kind of liken to a body. And I feel like it makes me think like which bodies are protected by barriers and which bodies are protected by being heard when you say no. And in the second to last line, will we hear your fret? Who's we? Like who's implicated in that statement? Yeah, I see a lot of bodies in this poem.
I want to improvise a little and ask Gabby to reach for Mozart 1935. The reason I'm asking you to read Mozart 1935 is that same problem that Sophia and I were just talking about obtains there. Not exactly the same, but there's this question about, I think in that poem there's someone upstairs carrying a dead body or something, and it's making a different kind of noise than the Mozart being played by the poet. I don't know. Let's hear it.
All right, you want me to read it in full?
Do you mind?
Yeah, sure. Mozart 1935 by Wallace Stevens. Poet, be seated at the piano. Play the present. It's hoo, it's shoo, it's ricanic, it's envious cachinnation. If they throw stones upon the roof while you practice arpeggios, it is because they carry down the stairs a body in rags. Be seated at the piano. That lucid souvenir of the past, the divertimento, that airy dream of the future, the unclouded concerto. The snow is falling. Strike the piercing chord. Be thou the voice, not you, be thou the voice of angry fear, the voice of this besieging pain. Be thou that wintry sound as of a great wind howling by which sorrow is released, dismissed, absolved, and a starry placating. We may return to Mozart. He was young and we are old. The snow is falling and the streets are full of cries. Be seated, thou.
The snow is falling, the streets are full of cries. It's exactly what Taggard's dealing with. Except in this case, some people have entered the house where the poet is playing Mozart, and they're dragging a body in rags. So this is a poor person, a homeless person who may have gotten into the house somehow. And this guy is doing his Wallace Stevens thing in 1935 of playing. It's so similar, you know? But I think I like the Stevens better, Gabby, because Stevens is allowing some of that noise to come into that weird poem. What do you think?
I think that's right. I think also, I don't know, there's this like question about what this kind of, what we might call like old stodgy thing actually has to offer us. Like, I don't think this poem is decided that,
Against Mozart.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
it's decided against Mozart, and that's like you're kind of navel gazing or whatever. I think there's like a real question about what this kind of thing is offering the moment,
Yes.
and whether the noisy outside, like it's kind of unclear what that is. I think I just like how sort of tense it is while being kind of cartoonish.
Yes. Well, you read it cartoonishly, which emphasized
is
the
my
reading.
fault.
No, it emphasized that reading. Before I turn to Allie and Dave on the question of interior, can you look at toward the end of the poem when the speaker, I'm going to say Stevens addressing a Stevens-like poet who's playing the arpeggio, and read us again, be thou. Be thou what, does he say?
Be thou the voice.
Keep going.
Be thou the voice, not you, be thou, the voice of angry fear, the voice of this besieging pain.
So he wants somebody's being addressed, a poet or a speaker or an artist who's a pianist playing Mozart, and the speaker or Stevens is telling the artist of 1935 to play the angry voice. And there is the difference between Stevens and Taggard. Okay, thanks, Gabby. So let's turn to Allie and Dave for further comment on interior, if you'd like.
I feel like we've gone a lot of different directions in this conversation about this poem. I'm still very much on like Kamara's page. Like I can't get the echo of the voice of no out of my head. Particularly the line in the third stanza of the voice of no. It is when we divide up the son, devour the young, rather than give up our good seats. And the person in the interior, the you in the interior, is the one with the good seats. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now. And I was just thinking in the conversation we were having before about like, what is the voice of no? And it seemed to me simultaneously like the kind of poet's voice wanting to say no to all of the distractions that enable us not to deal with the people who are drowning, not to take care of the people who are drowning. But it is also the voice of no is everything that is not taking care of the people who are drowning. And I think the you in interior, even though like that feels like a structural societal problem, in interior that is a personified existence.
Nice, thank you. Dave, last thought on this Genevieve Taggart poem. Let me just phrase a question. You can either respond in your remark to my question or just say what you were going to say and ignore my question, which is fine. How frustrated should we be with Taggart's strategy as a communist poet, trying to critique this lady of the house, middle-class lady, who's fretting around instead of doing something about the situation?
Interesting.
Does the poem want us to like Taggart? The poem definitely doesn't want us to like the lady in the house, but does Taggart assume that we like that strategy of critique?
Well, first off, I just want to point out that I think this is the only poem in ModPo that mentions marmosets. But to your point, the thing that I find interesting about this is it does seem to show an attempt to see things from the insider's perspective, right? It's trying. I wouldn't say gets sympathetic when it says, and you hate your life and your tiresome friends. So in a
No,
way,
that's
it's
pretty
trying-
sympathetic. That's pretty sympathetic. That's the one line where I think, oh, she realizes she's trapped in this middle class life. She hates her
Right,
life.
and
It's sad.
by seeing it from their perspective. And the interesting thing is, one point that I get from it is the criticism that that insider perspective is problematic because it fails to even try to consider the perspective of the outsiders.
Sure.
So it's embodying the act that it's criticized. The poem embodies the act that it criticizes that insider for not doing.
Yes, nice.